The steak, that's the main thing. You need a nice piece of steak, which we will add. Now this is only a small amount. Obviously you can do large amounts of this. I'm just doing one steak here. There's only a couple of us. A little bit of ground cumin on that as well. And also some sea salt and pepper. So just rub it around in there. So you can just season one side of it and then you just toss it around in your plate and you'll be in business. And onto our barbecue grill, pan fry it, I don't really mind, whichever you want to do. It is absolutely up to you. And then I'll just wipe my hands just while you're having a look at that. I think the barbecue is mostly the nicest because it gives us the best flavour. But yes, you can do the other methods. Sometimes it's not, the weather's not quite right for a barbecue, is it? The next thing, we're going to make ourselves a very simple little spiced sour cream. Nothing too fancy. Just a couple of good spoons of sour cream. A bit of chilli paste. Decent amount of that. But that's up to you too. It depends how hot you like things. And then some chopped coriander. Quite a bit of that and a good squeeze of fresh lime juice. Now the other thing I'm going to do with the lime is I'm actually going to squeeze that. Whoops! I'm going to not drop it, that's the main thing. I'm going to squeeze it over the steak as it cooks too. So you get the similar flavours happening. But first of all, our spiced yogurt. All right, let's just have a little taste. I always tell you, taste things, please. Oh, you could eat that on toast, guys. Now we'll just put a bit of a squeeze of our lime over the top here. And let's just lift it up so it doesn't get stuck on my grill, even though it did. Now I'm going to put the top down on it, which is not the normal way you grill a steak, but I want it nice and smoky because the steak tacos will really work with a smoky piece of beef. All right, we'll be back when the steak is ready and we'll rest it for a while and then we'll think about a few things to go with it, along with that spiced yogurt.
Huey's Kitchen, proudly brought to you by Chemist Warehouse. Lowest price guaranteed. In association with Swiss Vitamins. Tired? Stressed? You'll feel better on Swiss.
All right, our steak's ready. Let's think of a few things to go with it. As I said, this is real simple taco. We're not talking about anything complicated here. And I'm sure if you go to Mexico, their steak tacos would be a lot more complicated than this. But it's still tasty. First of all, we've got some sliced red onion there, finely sliced. Make sure it's really finely sliced. And I'm just going to put a bit of lime juice in there. And you have to get your fingers involved here. So you squeeze it really, really well. And the reason for that is, one, it flavours it, and two, it gets rid of the rawness a bit, because obviously citrus juice always cooks things, you know, so that's why you're careful when you marinate something in too much lemon or lime, because if you leave it for too long, you come back and it's cooked. All right, so we've got our onion, we've got some tomato there, we've got some avocado here, and we've got our spiced yogurt. Now all we need to do is heat up some tortillas, just the bought ones, and just put them on dry, just onto your barbecue, as many or as few as you like. Now my avocado, let's have a look at that. Oh, that looks all right, doesn't it? Let's just take that out of the skin and we will just slice that. We'll just grab our bowl first of all, plate, bowl, whatever, and we're going to just arrange it neatly, because we all know that food is so much about what it looks like when it arrives at the table. So, you know, always be a bit careful and try and make things look good. And good plates make a huge difference to that. So you buy some interesting shapes. I'm a bit of a fan of white, I must admit, because I think food looks better on white. But, you know, colours work for some things. Now let's just turn these over. Just a bit careful, because they're quite delicate. Avocado, just layer that along there. Put the sour cream, and wait on, I'll just pull off. Sorry, mate, I'm making life difficult for you because I'm darting around, but I better pull that off because I think these are certainly cooked enough. I don't want them cooked more than that. Back to our yogurt. Plenty of that, because that's a bit of the star of the show. And we will slice our steak fairly thin. Now, of course, you cook it to the desired degree. I don't think it's a rare dish, though, I have to be honest. I don't think it quite works with rare, so I've cooked it. What have I cooked it? Oh, about medium rare, which would be nice. And we'll put that on there as well. Actually, let's just lay it out like that. That looks better, doesn't it? I've just been giving you lectures about making sure things look good and then I sort of mess it up. Just clean that up because I want to cut these into pieces. You can leave them whole if you like. I'm just going to cut them in half and they can go also on our plate just like that. And you know, guys, maybe simple, but that's good food. Proud of that. All right, cheers. This recipe is actually from this book, well, sort of. I've mucked around with it, of course. It's called Recipes My Mother Cooked, and it's a wonderful book published by Allen and Unwin, and a percentage of the sales go to the McGrath Foundation, which is a very worthwhile cause, as we know. And there's people like Maggie Beer, Steve Manfredi, Damien Pignolet, Ian Hewitson. There's a couple of photographs of myself with my mother and my daughter Charlotte, so we must have a look at that. But it is a terrific book, and the recipe that I'm doing is from Chong Lu, who, you know, is one of Australia's great chefs, and it's from his mother. So, as I said, worthwhile cause, and some terrific, absolutely terrific recipes, so worth having a look. I only got it yesterday, and already I'm cooking a recipe out of it, so it just shows you that I think it's pretty special. Now, as I said, from Chong Lu's mother, just some steamed fish. He actually uses Atlantic salmon. Because I'm right on the water here at St Kilda Beach and just out, you know, in the bay, this is where they catch these blue eyes. So I thought I'd use some blue eye rather than the Atlantic salmon, but of course you can use salmon. And I'm just going to steam it. You put it in the steamer just like that. And to that we then add a little sprinkling of rice wine vinegar. Just keep it simple, not too much. And also some salt and pepper. Sea salt, of course. And before I forget, some nice shreddings of young ginger. I've got some beautiful young ginger around at the moment, but if it's not absolutely young and soft and all the things good ginger should be, well, it's mostly better that you use, in that case, some grated ginger. And then I've got some spring onion whites, and I just cook that until it's almost ready. Take about 5-6 minutes with a bit of luck, and then we'll be back and finish it off. Now we're looking rather good here. Just have a look at that, Wayne. It's very close. Beautiful. Nice piece of fresh fish. And what we next do is we just grab a tablespoon, and in this pan over here, sorry mate, I'm disappearing on you, 3 tablespoons of chicken stock and 1 tablespoon of soy. Where are we? Good Japanese soy, please, for this. And we're just going to heat that, and then we're going to pour that on the fish as well, along with some green of some spring onion. But first of all, this is the difficult part. This is always the hard part with these things. What I need to do is pour off that liquid. So I always find that this is very heavy and very hard to handle because it's very hot, even with my asbestos hands. So we pour that off, put that back in, and I'll have to do that again later. And as soon as this is hot, we pour that over the top. So let's just grab some green of spring onion now, and we'll put that in as well. That just gives some nice freshness. And sorry, mate, we'll put that back on. And as soon as this is heated, we're in business. And it is, so that goes on there now. And we're going to make a sort of a vinaigrette for this dish. Now that's enough liquid for 4, guys. I did make enough for 4, so don't suddenly think, oh, he's putting a hell of a lot on this one piece of fish. Well, yes, he is, actually. I'd forgotten. Now, we just wipe this out, the pan, because we've got another step. The last step, which is a real Asian trick, this one. Real Asian trick. And where are we? Peanut oil, and we need sesame oil. Because what we do now is we heat up 3 tablespoons of peanut oil. Doesn't matter if it's got a little bit of soy in, that doesn't matter. It's just the same spoon, that's all. And then 3 teaspoons. Now please, please, please. It's 1 tablespoon to 1 teaspoon. Now here we go. I don't know what, I reckon these helicopters follow me. Every time I start filming, anywhere, it doesn't matter where it is, I get helicopters. So back to my cooking though. Make sure 1 tablespoon to 1 teaspoon. No more, guys, please. It's terribly important because as we know, and I've said to you a million times, sesame oil is pretty strong stuff. Now, out we go again with this. Let's just grab it out, and I might be a bit more clever and have my tea towel ready to hang on to it. What do you reckon? Would that be a good idea? I reckon it'd be a pretty darn good idea. And I'll tell you what else I'll do, because I'm being very clever. I'll take the fish off first. That's a better idea, isn't it? Into our bowl. And then this over the top. And I won't clean it up yet because you'll see what happens next. So the last step is we sort of, as I said, we're sort of making a dressing or a vinaigrette, anything you like to call it. And I'll put a little bit of red chilli. This is just a mild, long chilli. This is not a hot one. You could use red capsicum if you liked. And we will now stand here and wait for this to smoke. It's going to happen. The wind's just come up, so the wind's blowing away my flame. But it's going to happen any second. I can tell. Fascinating television, watching me waiting for the oil. But the helicopter's back. Oh, right. All right, guys, that's good. Now we're looking. It's starting to crackle. You put it over the top, and as I said, this is basically forming a nice dressing with the soy and with these oils. I won't put it all over because that's a bit too much there. And then we will clean up the plate. And even the mixture of the oil and the soy looks good, doesn't it? So that's a terrific dish. Thanks, Chong. And remember the book. It's well worth buying, and it's a great cause. All right. Cheers, guys. Because it's a bit of a stretch to call it Wellington, isn't it? You know, like the beef Wellington. Well, it is wrapped in pastry. But anyway, I just thought it was a bit of fun at the time, so that's what it's going to be. It's going to be, what is it? Pumpkin, ricotta, and spinach. Wellington. Fair enough. I know you're looking at me a bit strange, but, you know, I think it's fair enough. Then again, I think most of the things I say are fair enough. Right, the spinach itself. Just some garlic into some oil, so we're just flavouring that oil with some garlic, and then we add a couple of good handfuls of baby spinach leaves, which I have taken the stalks off. I knew what I'd done. And all we're then going to do is just saute that very quickly, just to wilt it. All right, this is pretty close. As I said, they just need to wilt, and it's certainly, you know, when you're cooking spinach, it takes about 2 seconds. Well, it's taken a little bit more than 2 seconds. Gee, that wok is heavy. I was just picking it up thinking, oh, yeah, right, fine. Then I realised I better be a bit more careful with it. So we've got our spinach. We've got the pumpkin here. Now, that's half a butternut pumpkin, and I have roasted it in a 210-degree oven, just with a bit of olive oil and some seasoning, just until it's reasonably tender. Then I have cooled it. Now, I've just mashed it up a bit. Don't get your potato masher out. Just use your spoon. And sorry, Brendan, I'm right in front of you there now. I know, mate. but now I'm not. 200 grams of ricotta goes in there, as does that sautéed spinach. Just do one little thing with the spinach. Just make sure that it's fairly dry. So just squeeze it like that and leave behind any of the liquid. There we go. Because water does come out of spinach, even when you haven't put any liquid in it. So that goes in as well. And we need some salt and pepper. Decent amount. And then just let's mash this up. Oh, I knew there was one other thing I wanted to put in. Sorry, I'm sort of dashing away from you here today. Some parmesan as well. So there's a couple of cheeses in this. So we put some parmesan in there as well, just to add a little bit of extra flavour. Alrighty, now we're in business. And just keep on mashing that a little, making sure you mix that spinach through and the ricotta. But as I said, I don't want to glug, so be a little careful. You still want some texture to it. All right, good. Now, pastry itself, some good quality puff, just sheets of. Gee, this makes life simple, doesn't it? Because the quality of this Borgs is really terrific. In the old days when you used to spend 3 days making it yourself, and you did spend 3 days. Now, so we've just got that on the bench, and all we're then going to do is put about half of this mix, because we'll do 2 of them, about half of this mix in the centre there. Sorry, I've got the rattles today. I've got musical bowls. Oh, I'm a bit unusual, aren't I? All right, so just like that, make sure it's fairly even and leave an edge, which you then paint with egg wash. You paint the pastry with egg wash, Ian, that's what you do. And you roll it up. Just roll those 2 pieces into the centre first. That's just to give you that edge. And then all we're doing is going boom, 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 just like that. And we're going to try and neaten that up a bit, but don't worry about it too much that it's not absolutely neat, because once the pastry rises, it will make a huge difference. And just spray your oven tray and whack one of those in there, and then we will repeat the process. I think it's about half that I use. We'll have a look in a minute though, won't we? This is going to be nice stuff. I mean, maybe it's not quite the same as beef Wellington, but nice flavours. I love roasted pumpkin. It's one of my huge delights, and the mixture of that and the cheese. This one's going to be a bit bigger, as you can see, but I'm not going to waste any of that mixture. No way, Jose. Now, sorry, I nearly forgot my egg wash. That's just to help it to stick. So the moral of the story is next time I do it, is I make sure I check the half. Make sure that I've got a half and half. Right. Into our tray, neaten it up a little bit, and then we brush it all over with our egg wash, which gives it a wonderful glaze. A lot of people just use egg. I actually like the idea of having some milk in it. And as I said to you 1,000 times, any left over, if you're not intending doing a whole lot of tarts or pastries or anything like that, make it into scrambled eggs. Add a few more eggs, you got scrambled eggs. Into an oven, 200 degrees, 20 minutes, I would say, because remembering everything in it is cooked. So 15 to 20 minutes until that pastry is golden brown and risen. Now, maybe the meat lover in the family will say, oh, I prefer it with a piece of beef in it, but once they've tasted it, I reckon you'll win them over. Straight into the fridge, keep an eye on it. Certainly going to be tasty. Now this is a bit of a mishmash of a dish, because what it is sort of an Asian marinated pork more in the Chinese style, and then I've got sort of a Japanesey corn dish which comes from the Momofuku, I think that's how it's pronounced, noodle bar in New York. I love it. it's got white miso, which is a fermented bean paste. So really very tasty. But anyway, the pork itself, which is the star of the show, I suppose. First of all, we make the marinade for that. And the wasps are out in force today. Nice to know somebody likes my cooking, isn't it? They've started. Right, so a tablespoon of sesame oil. And be a bit careful of measuring that exactly. I don't normally bother measuring things, as you know, but the sesame oil can take over. About a tablespoon of Chinese wine. If you haven't got that, use dry sherry. A tablespoon of ketchup manis, which is an Indonesian sweet soy. And a tablespoon of hoisin. Measured accurately as usual. We can see that, can't we? And then some honey. Now, I've got some great honey here. This was given to me when I was down at Shoreham. Just have a look at that. So they gave me 2 packets, so this is the second one. So just a tablespoon of that honey. As I said, it's made by a local guy down at Shoreham on the Mornington Peninsula, and he gave me a couple of containers the other day. All right, and then a good tablespoon of chili paste. And that's about it, I think. Maybe some pepper. Doesn't need any salt. All right. And we'll just whisk that up. And what I've got to put in this is some pork fillet. Just looking at it, I might put a little bit of oil in. There's a reason for that. It's going to be very sugary with those sauces, you know, the ketchup, manis and the hoisin. And it may burn on the grill, so we'll just be a little careful with that. And then the pork fillet, which I've just trimmed of all fat and sinew and cut it into lengths. And you don't have to marinate it for long at all, because you are going to baste it with the mixture as it cooks. So just put it in there. We'll start on the corn, and while that's happening, once we've got that started, we can think about using that. Now, the corn itself, just light a pan of some sort, a little bit of oil in there, a little bit of butter, and guys, just to show you that wasp confused the heck out of me. Seems to, oh, it's coming back again. I knew there was something I missed out. What I missed was some garlic and ginger in my marinade, so sorry about that. Just shows you that I can be wrong. Very rarely, of course. So some freshly grated ginger. Right, and also just hang about there, mate, because I've got a clove or 2 of garlic to go in as well. And then just let's mix that up. All right, that's better. Now we're talking. Right, so we've got our oil and butter in there, and what we're going to do is put a tablespoon of this miso, which, as I said to you, is fermented bean paste. So that goes in too at the beginning. And just mix that around just to dissolve that before we start.
Huey's Kitchen, proudly brought to you by Chemist Warehouse. Lowest price guaranteed. In association with Swiss Vitamins. Tired? Stressed? You'll feel better on Swiss.
What I've got here is half an onion, which I've sliced very finely, and I've got 3 or 4 rashers of streaky bacon. Now, if they're the really full ones, just 2 would be plenty. And then I just want to saute those, coating them with the miso. Once you've got a bit of colour into it, about 5 or 6 cob corns, which I've just taken the kernels off. And we'll just break that up a bit. So nice fresh corn, please. And just mix that around once again to get all the flavours through, that miso through there, and also the juice of the bacon and the onion and all the goody bits. Then we put about half a cup of water in there, and we're going to cook that until that's very tender. And as I said to you, at that time we can do our pork, even though it hasn't marinated very long, because it doesn't actually really matter, purely and simply because I am going to brush it with the marinade. So let's just grab the pork and just put it on a skewer, just lengthways like that. Just leave a little space between them, and we will just put that on the grill just like that. All right, don't cook it on too fierce a heat, and do remember, of course, you could barbecue it. And we'll turn this up a bit because it sort of seems to have disappeared. The heat seems to have disappeared off that. And we'll have a look, just pick that up always, just to make sure it doesn't stick. And we'll grab our brush and we'll start thinking about the basting process. Come on, mate, turn over. Doesn't seem to want to, does it? We actually might make them a bit tighter because that'll make it easier to turn them over. So we'll do that a bit tighter. And of course you don't have to use the skewers if you don't want to. But your main thing is definitely the basting process, because that's what will give it the caramelisation and the lovely flavour. Now, while that's happening, what I want to do is throw some spring onions into this, or green onions as they are known in some of the states, because they have about 40 different names, don't they? Green onions, spring onions, shallots. I don't know. I can never quite work out what they are. We'll call them spring or green, all right? So just chop that fairly finely. I love this dish. First time I saw it, I can remember thinking, this is me, because I do love corn, and that miso just gives it that little touch of magic, and the other little bits and pieces. All right, now we're looking good. Let's just grab something to serve it on, and because these skewers are pretty long, let's put it on a nice long plate. Actually, this corn's so good, I could quite happily eat this by itself, to be honest. I love this stuff, but I'm a great corn fan anyway. You know, there's something wonderful, just for example, you know, barbecued corn on the cob. You know, you do it actually in the whole piece. You don't strip off anything, and you just wet it, and then you barbecue it. Wonderful. But of course, that's not what I'm doing today, is it? Because what I'm doing are these lovely skewers. With their beautiful sweet flavours of that terrific marinade. All right, guys, now don't be tempted to use any more of the marinade because it has had raw meat in it, and you always should stop the marinating a little bit before so that the actual marinade is cooked. Do you understand what that meant? You don't want that now drizzled over the top because that had raw meat and this is cooked meat. They should never be mixed. Anyway, that's beside the point. Some Asian-style kebabs with that miso sweet corn. This is my lunch, guys. Sorry, the crew's out of luck. This is going to be real tasty stuff. Welcome back. Now, we're talking cheap eats here because this day and age, sometimes we need something that's really tasty and is reasonably priced. And I worked this out. This is about $3.50 a portion, including a nice green salad along the side. And it's just a cheese and bacon puff. It's things like our mothers and grandmothers used to make, but they really are very, very tasty and, you know, easy to do. First of all, we start off with 150 grams of plain flour, to which we add 4 large eggs. My daughter will be very happy with me using these wonderful eggs with the smiles on them. She always says to me, Daddy, if, you know, not that I ever do because I always buy these eggs because they're my favourites, but she always says to me, Daddy, if by chance I happen to buy them without the smiles on them, she says, they're not the eggs. They're not the eggs we use. Not that she's bossy, just got good taste. Now, a wooden spoon. I'm sure I've got one here somewhere. I knew I had one. We just mix that up. That's the flour and eggs. Mix it together quite well. just with your wooden spoon. Because that's the start of your batter. I know I'm not making a cake, but it's still a batter, guys. And then let's just get any excess off there. And we add 200 mils of milk, full fat milk, and 50 grams of melted butter. And we mix that in once again well. Make sure you get all those bits off the side. And give it a good beating. You know, you're not looking for a pancake batter here, so it doesn't matter if it's got a few lumps, but you want it reasonably smooth. And to that we then add 8 rashers of streaky bacon, which I have just sautéed in a pan till it's a bit crispy. You can add any juices from that pan too, because they're just the natural bacon juices, because I did it without actually adding any oil. 150 grams of grated tasty cheese. Some sea salt and pepper, not too much salt, because often your bacon's fairly salty. So just a smidgen. Plenty of pepper though. And you just stay there, mate, because I'm just coming back with 4 spring onions, which I have chopped finely, including the green and white. And then once again, mix it up. And you'd have to say it doesn't come much simpler than that, does it? What we then do is just grab a gratin dish, or any oven dish, it doesn't really matter, and spray it with some cooking spray, oil spray, whatever you want. And into that goes our mix. Just spread it out, just like that. Into an oven, 200 degrees, and you cook that until it's puffed and golden. 15, 20 minutes, something like that. As I said, serve it with an ice cream salad. Wonderful light dinner, tea, or whatever you want to call it. We always called it tea when I was a kid, didn't we? It was always tea. I was just thinking about that when I said it. Anyway, terrific light lunch, lovely salad on the side, pretty reasonably priced, and tasty to boot.
Huey's Kitchen, proudly brought to you by Chemist Warehouse. Lowest price guaranteed. In association with Swiss Vitamins. Tired? Stressed? You'll feel better on Swiss.
Now, I have to tell you, is that for some reason I said 15 to 20 minutes, and I was looking at it and I thought to myself, that's not going to set in 15 or 20 minutes, so it has taken a bit longer. So I reckon it's taken maybe 30, and depending on your oven, even up to 35. But have a look at that. That looks nice. That's set. Bubbling around the sides. A little bit of herbs of some sort on the top. And we, my friends, are in business. Now, I'm going to enjoy this. Yep, I really am. Now, this is a terrific, easy fruit-based dessert. You make it beforehand, you stick it in the fridge, and when you're ready, you pull it out. That sounds quite logical, doesn't it? When I was saying that, I was thinking to myself, Ian, it's pretty logical. You don't really have to explain that. Anyway, the point about it is, it's really interesting, because you just make a really nice fruit salad. You make a syrup with some orange and some lemon, and sugar, of course. So you've made it basically a citrus sugar syrup. You pour that over some strawberries and passion fruit and blackberries, blueberries, blackberries, blueberries. I knew what they were. And that's about all there is to it. A few other little bits and pieces. You do a nice topping with some yogurt and some cream. But, you know, nothing terribly complicated. And as I said, the thing that I like about it, it is definitely something that you can pre-do. Gee, there's a lot of pips in this lemon. I've noticed that lately. I don't know why that is, but anyway, must be the time of the year, I presume. So the juice of 1 lemon, put that on the heat, and half a cup of sugar, and we've also got 1 orange there that we're going to juice as well. And then into the pot. Now, all we're doing here is just cooking that until the sugar dissolves, which doesn't take very long at all. And then we're going to pour it, as I said, over our strawberries and blueberries. Now, while that's happening, you always need to do something a little bit different when you're doing a simple dessert like this. And what I've got here are some soldiers of panettone. Now, panettone is that wonderful Italian cake. And I've cut them in fairly neat pieces, and that just goes in the oven, 180 degrees, for about 45 minutes until it's nice and crispy. Now, they will crisp up as they cool, so they just need to be golden brown, and then, as I said, if you pull them out and think, oh, that's not really quite as crisp, they will crisp more. And also, may I also say, don't waste the rest of the panettone. Make a bread and butter pudding with it. Best bread and butter pudding in the world with the panettone, so there's my advice for the day. Right, now this is about dissolved, so we'll pour it over our berries, and then we will leave that to cool a bit. Not a huge amount, because you've got all that fruit, and so it sort of cools by itself, doesn't it? And what I've got here is a cup of cream, which I've whisked fairly lightly. And to that I will then add 500 grams of Greek yogurt. Nice thick yogurt, that's what you want. And then a couple of tablespoons of honey. And just mix that in together. Don't beat the heck out of it, purely and simply because it'll then collapse, and you don't want that to happen. All right, looking good. So we've got that. It's got a bit of sweetness to it with that honey. And what I'm now going to do, I don't know whether you can hear that, but, you know, we're down here at Waterfront City, and there's obviously a little bit of a school excursion outside, because there's a heck of a lot of yelling going on. They must be having a good time. Now, fruit salad. Let's talk about our fruit salad. Pretty simple stuff. Use any fruit that you've got. I've got kiwi fruit, pineapple, fresh pineapple, bananas, some nice watermelon. I think that's about all I've used, because I've then got the berries going into it as well. So we've got some nice flavours happening there, but as I said, you use what you like and what's in season, of course. And then we'll just mix that up really well. So it's got that nice sort of citrus sugar syrup, just to give it a bit of sweetness. And then, my friends, any bowl, dish, whatever you like, a big one, small one, you can do it individual, I don't care. Today, I'm just using a big gratin dish, because I've got a lot of people coming for lunch. So I'm making a big amount. So just throw it in, spread it out, just like that. Make sure it's reasonably flat, because I want to put the yogurt mix on the top. And just spread that out right to the edges. I want all the fruit covered, so keep that in mind when you're doing it. Perfect amount too. I knew that. I really did. Now, of course, if you're being really fancy, you could find a really fancy pudding dish. But, you know, I think there's enough magic with the panettone croutons and this nice topping and that lovely fruit. Right, now, last but not least, a generous sprinkling of brown sugar on top. Now, that brown sugar will almost caramelise by the time you come to eat this dish. So it's just a lovely sort of extra little bit of flavour there. And then that just goes in the fridge, a couple of hours, by which stage, as I said, that brown sugar was, well, I don't know whether caramelise is quite the word, but what happens is it softens and becomes part of the dish and just gives that lovely little sweetness on the top. So into the fridge, a couple of hours, don't cover it. Take about 45 minutes, but they don't look like they're going to take 45 minutes. Maybe my oven's a little bit hot. But anyway, just keep an eye on them, guys, because basically what you're wanting to do is toast them, and you're definitely wanting to caramelise those, because all those that lovely fruit that's in the panettone and the sugar, does have sugar in it, doesn't it? Anyway, all the lovely fruit will caramelise. I have to be very careful, because I'm not absolutely certain whether it has sugar in it or not. Where are we? Yes. Now you'll see what I mean about it sort of almost being caramelised. It sort of even looks like a bit like a brulee topping. You have a look here. Look at that. It's good, doesn't it? Now, the other thing. My panettone soldiers, forget the 3/4. They took about 15 minutes, can I tell you? And they're absolutely delightful. Crispy, crunchy, fruity, all that. A little bit of icing sugar on the top. A ripper dessert. Terrific for a large group of people because it can be made beforehand, just dumped in the middle of the table. Everyone can help themselves. If you'd like any recipes from today's show, just call 1902 214 995 or fantastic. Straight into the fridge. Keep an eye on it. Certainly going to be tasty. I'm always interested in history, and we're here at Phillip Island, which is a lovely part of the world, particularly on a day like this. They do tell me it gets quite windy here, but not today. It is beautiful. Anyway, the first inhabitants were the Aboriginal Bunurong tribe, based around Western Port. I hope I pronounced that correctly. George Bass was the first European to visit Western Port on the 5th of January 1798 after a voyage down the coast from Port Jackson in a 28-foot whaleboat. Fascinating stuff. Sealers soon followed, harvesting the seals on the Bass Strait Islands and seal rocks near the Nobbies. Now, the seal rocks are over there somewhere. Oh, I don't know. Somewhere over there. And then we had a little bit of farming and various things like that. The first pub opened in 1870, ferry service 1878, Australian Grand Prix was here, and the motorbike GP has been here since 1989, and then there's the Ferry Penguins, and there's all matter of things, isn't it? It's actually quite a nice place to visit because there's lots of things happening. Good fishing, great fishing. If you're a fisherman, come down here. They get snapper and they get local whiting, they get garfish, lots of crayfish, you know, all those good things, all those things that we like. Anyway, I'm supposed to be cooking something, aren't I? And what I'm doing here today is I'm doing, which suits Phillip Island absolutely brilliantly, I'm doing an Argentinian dish. But the reason I'm doing it is because it's using some of the local beef, which is terrific. And I like the way the Argentinians do beef because what they do is they make this chimichurri, it's called, or chimichurri? Chimichurri. And it's just sort of like a relish with some real zing to it. So I like that. So that's what I'm doing today, and that's the reason that I'm doing it with this terrific local beef. And I'm also going to pepper the beef, you know, reasonably generously, not too much, but, you know, just lightly peppered. I remember there was years ago, you know, when pepper steaks were absolutely in vogue and they used to put cracked pepper on. There was so much pepper that, you know, that's all you could taste. Well, I'm not going to do that, but I am going to do, and I could have done with a little less salt on that one, but what we'll do is we'll use it for the other side as well. Got a bit excited there, guys, got a bit excited. Now, just on a ridge grill or on a barbecue, whichever you like, and just spray it with some oil. Firstly on one side, and then on the other. And then we will talk about a chimichurri. Right, what I've got here is I've 1/4 cup of vegetable oil, and I put 2 good tablespoons of chopped fresh rosemary. And then I brought that to the heat, cooked it for 2 minutes, and then took it off and cooled it. Now to that, we then add a few other things. As I said, it's quite herby. And we add 3 tablespoons of white wine vinegar and 1/2 cup of chopped Italian parsley and 2 cloves of garlic. Now this is mostly not the original sauce, but it's sort of a variation. I don't think the original one had rosemary, but I think everyone does their own variations. And I saw a variation of this in a book, which I've changed a bit too. See, so everyone has a shot at it, including me. So I had my shot at it as well. But the main thing about it, what you want is something, as I said before, something tangy as a contrast to your rich steak. So let's just have a taste. That is delightful. Absolutely delightful. I've done well. Keep an eye on our steaks. Now, you cook them to the desired degree. If you're going to cook them more than I would, which is everyone in the world most probably, I'm being silly here, but start them off on a high heat to seal them, to caramelise them, then turn them, and then turn that heat down. And then you can cook them without drying them out. So don't ever think about trying to cook a medium to well steak on a really hot grill, because all that'll happen is it'll dry out. So you don't want that. So if you're cooking at medium and above, please turn down the grill. When you're like me and you want it rare or medium rare, over the high heat is wonderful. All right, steaks off. Just dunk them into that sauce. You can serve the sauce alongside. I actually love this idea of putting them in the dressing, because you end up with those wonderful flavours. And then what we do, because what happens, of course, when your steak goes in and it's hot, it soaks up some of that dressing, so that's really nice. Well, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. Now, you definitely don't do, or you don't need to, but I'm being very generous today to myself, because this is my lunch. And then we just pour some of that dressing over the top. And that's about it. There's nothing much else you need. Nice little salad on the side. Nothing too complicated, because you've got that lovely sauce there. Maybe a little bit of rosemary as a garnish. What do you reckon? You reckon it needs that? No, but it's on it. So there you go. All right. An Argentinian steak dish, Phillip Island, lovely day, good local beef. Welcome to Ripponlea. It's actually one of the jewels, I believe, in Melbourne's crown. It's run by the National Trust, of course, who've done a wonderful job, as they always do. It's actually fascinating, because some interesting people have owned this. It was built by the Sargood family originally. Now, I remember Sargoods as being a very successful firm even when I was a kid. So, you know, it was that family. So they built it. And all around here was just wilderness when they first built it, so it's sort of, you know, improved as it's gone along. But the other person that I do remember who owned it at one stage was Tommy Bent. Now, there's a statue of Tommy Bent just outside Brighton, and he was regarded as he was the premier at the time, rather unscrupulous, renowned for rigging elections. And anyway, he bought it and started subdividing it. Fortunately, he died before he could subdivide too much of it. But it's been beautifully preserved. It's got the most wonderful ballroom, which you can have a look at later. But it's just absolutely superb. And what I thought I'd make here is a sort of an old-fashioned soup, you know, because when I was a kid, we used to survive on soups, I think. And my grandmother, I mean, her soups were wonderful. So I sort of have the vision that they made lots of soups here. And if they didn't, they should have. All right. So there's about 300 grams of cubed lamb there, just quite small cubes. And I'm just going to seal that. I'll just grab a towel and I'm just going to seal that in this pot. And to that I then add some veggies. I've got a sweet potato, which I've diced. I've got a couple of carrots. I've got a large onion, 3 or 4 stalks of celery, and 1 large leek. And I've just diced the whole lot. So we'll just throw that in. Which is funny to reflect, there's some wonderful old shots of here. I don't know whether we can do them on the camera because they're not the greatest shots in the world, but to look at Elsternwick, which is the suburb this is in, you know, sort of in the 1800s, and it was just an absolute barren wasteland. And now when you think about it, it's an inner suburb. You know, we're not even talking about an outer suburb, it's an inner suburb of Melbourne, so certainly the city has grown. And the Sargoods made their money, as I said, you know, a very successful company, but they started off as drapers that come out from England. Frederick's father, Frederick's the man who built this, his father came out from England, and they built the place from, I'd say, their profits from the gold rush, because they had been very successful during the gold rush. And the other thing about it is he also then went on to the Legislative Council. And later on in the piece, he became Sir Frederick Sargood. That's enough of the history lesson. I am a cook after all, so we'll just do that. All right, so we get the cooking process started. with those, and then we start adding some liquids and things. But first of all, the real old-fashioned thing, which is one of my favourites, I've gone completely mad on this, is pearl barley. So there's about 200 grams of pearl barley, remembering that it does swell up quite a bit, and we'll throw that in. One of our great chefs in Melbourne, Philippe Michel, makes a pearl barley risotto, which is to die for. All right, 2 cans of diced tomatoes. You just stay there, mate. And because I'm just going to bring some stock over. A couple of litres of chook stock. I actually forgot my garlic, so I'm adding it at the end. Well, not quite the end of the first process. So about 2 cloves of garlic go in there. And also my mother's favourite addition to soups and stews, a good splash of Worcester. Actually, that's really interesting, because the original Worcester sauce, or Worcestershire, whichever way you want to pronounce it, was created by Lee and Perrins. Now, this place is called Ripon Lee. Ripon was the mother's maiden name, Frederick's mother's maiden name, and Lee is actually meadow. Aren't you glad I shared that with you? Oh dear, I think I'll go home. I really do. Enough of the history. Right, a few sprigs of thyme, some salt and pepper, and then of course some freshly ground pepper. And basically we're in business. So once you've prepared the vegetables, you're actually talking about a pretty simple process. And now all we do is cook that. Now, if you feel that you need to add a little bit more stock, because it is a soup, but I believe it's one of my mother's type soups. You stand a spoon up in it, and that's what it's about. So what we now need is it to cook until that barley's tender, the lamb is tender, and all the vegetables are as well. As I said, if you need to, you can add some more stock. All right, our soup is ready, and it looks delicious, may I say. A little bit of bias, just a smidgen. Now, I like serving these kind of soups in the middle of the table with a big ladle, and always you need some extra. But, you know, people can help themselves to as much or as little as they like. Nice crusty bread on the side. Terrific stuff. You can, of course, serve individual portions if that is your want. Alrighty. Looks good. I don't know about the bowl. I don't know how good that looks, because I've made a right mess. Some chopped parsley just to give it a bit of freshness at the end. And a fitting soup for Ripon Lee. Classy stuff.
Huey's Kitchen, proudly brought to you by Chemist Warehouse. Lowest price guaranteed. In association with Swiss Vitamins. Tired? Stressed? You'll feel better on Swiss.
Onion salad. Doesn't sound too exciting, does it? This one is. It really is. And the secret is the fact that it's roasted. And it's perfect for a barbecue or for an accompaniment to any grill. Absolutely wonderful with a steak. And all you do is you cut the onions in half, including, as you can see, the skins. And then all we do is we pull them out once they're roasted. Oh, did I say we roasted them? I don't think I did. Right, then you roast them 180 degrees, maybe 200 depending on your oven, and just sprinkle them with olive oil. And sorry, that's a bit hot here. I'm having a bit of difficulty with these. You normally leave one layer behind because it sort of gets stuck. But I don't want to leave 3 layers behind, do I? So we just pull them out. But as I said, olive oil, some seasoning, throw them into the oven, cook them until they're really tender. And of course they get a wonderful smoky flavour by being roasted. And then we just pull them out of the skins with great difficulty because they're very hot. It's a lot easier if you hang on to them, isn't it? But you burn your fingers too. All right, looking good. Now, just double check to make sure that you haven't got any skin left. See, I've got a little bit there, so we'll just whip that off. That one can go. That one is too... Look, why don't we just cut it off? That'd be better. All right. And then all you do is just chop them up roughly. Don't get all carried away and try to do it neatly. It doesn't matter. Because the idea is you just sort of have this rough chopped. And I'll just take that bit off because it's got a bit of skin. All right, looking good. And then, I'll pull the board over there and we'll just put it into our bowl. Don't worry, I'm going to dress it. It's all right. I know you're sitting at home and saying, gee, that's going to be boring. I've promised you it won't be boring, so it's not going to be boring. Guarantee it. Olive oil. Good sprinkle of that. Red wine vinegar. The same. But not as much as the olive oil. And a little bit less. Some sea salt. I keep on saying to you, I love the idea of these packs that reseal. Then I can't get the blessed things open. But I do love the idea they reseal. That's more important than getting them open. Some freshly ground pepper. And last but not least, a decent amount of chopped parsley. And then we just toss it all up. And clean up our bowl. And a wonderful roasted onion salad, perfect for any barbecue grill or even a simple roast. That is special. From the kitchen down at Waterfront City, time to go. Cheers, guys. If you'd like any recipes from today's show, just call 1902 214 995 or visit our website. Welcome to Bortley. Now, it's a beautiful day and I'm with a very talented chef. It's actually very funny because I've got a couple of really good mates of good foodies, and one of them actually works here, Richard Thomas, who has a cheese tasting room here and ages cheeses, etc., etc. And my good mate Bob Hart, who we'll see sometimes on the show over the year. Anyway, they've both said that this man is a very talented chef. I think they both lied, but anyway. Tim Keenan, wonderful to see you, mate. Yeah. Now, what are you cooking for us today, mate?
Today we're going to cook something that's on the menu up in the restaurant, a locale, and it never comes off. It's a bit of a crowd pleaser. It's very simple. It's something that the guys can do at home. Yeah. And it's pretty quick, really. Right. So it's just all about quality ingredients, even down to the spices. You know, they've got to be fresh. They've got to be freshly milled. A few simple tips like that, home and hose. Yeah. I've been talking about this thing that's happening in the valley, which is absolutely wonderful, about everyone having vegetable gardens. Yeah, well, we've got the land for it. We've got the sun for it. Yeah. And this year we've had the rain for it, which has been a little bit of a problem the last couple of years. Yeah, it makes life absolutely wonderful, isn't it? Because the thing is, you've got the supply, and as you said, you've got the rain, because that's one of the big problems, is that people don't have the rain for their kitchen gardens. But it's a lovely idea. How long have you been here? 2 years now. 2 years, yeah. Getting settled in. Oh, yeah. Do you live up in the valley? I do. I just live down the road in Yarra Glen. So we're about 55 minutes from Melbourne CBD. Right. So it's not that far for a day trip. Now, Tim, you've got a very talented girlfriend, haven't you? Yes, I have. She's the pastry chef here. She's also doing a couple of books at the moment, and Alison Louise Designer Cakes. Two books? 2 books, yeah. Oh. Yep. Both at the printers. Glutton for punishment? I did a book last year. It drove me mad. I don't think I want to do 2. Anyway, mate, do you want to get the pasta in and then we'll start talking about what else you're going to do? Now, the style of food that you're doing in this place, what's it about? Well, you know, you obviously have a theme. It's all Italian influenced. Right. You know, everything we do, you know, originates from Italy in one way or another. Which, as it should be. You know, thinking of the family who own this property. That's right. They come from northern Italy. Yeah. And this dish here represents, you know, the coastal regions. Right. Obviously, we're going to be using beautiful fresh prawns, sashimi grade prawns at that, and just freshly peeled. Just done those, and picked some beautiful herbs from the garden. Yeah. Just have a look here, Wayne. Look at that. It's on ice because the biggest problem
is cooking outside, as I know, is actually keeping things fresh because they just wilt in the sun. And we've got some zucchini flowers, and then obviously we've got some wonderful green prawns.
This pasta that I'm using today, it takes about 6 or 7 minutes to cook. So that's going to give us enough time to slowly get this pan warm. We're going to chop some garlic just quickly.
Yes.
Everything else is ready to go. We'll tear those herbs at the last minute and just toss them through.
All right.
So
Now, just tell me something, you know, while you're chopping the garlic, so you don't have to stop. But a lot of chefs say, oh, you have to use fresh pasta, but the Italians use fresh for certain things and dried for others, don't they?
That's right. I love dried pasta. I think it's got a great mouthfeel.
Yeah.
Fresh pasta's got its place, you know, in beautiful tortellinis and raviolis and things like that. You know, fettuccinis and linguinis, I don't mind a good fresh pasta. But when you move into the pennes and spaghettis and the rigatonis, if you have a good quality pasta, you can't beat it.
Yeah. And also, if you're cooking it with hardy ingredients like prawns today, you do want something that's got a bit of bite to it, don't you?
Yeah, it's all about texture. I mean, it's made with semolina. The Italians have got a law, I think, that you can't make dried pasta without semolina.
All right.
It's actually in the constitution or whatever they have there, and it's rightly so. You know, it's all about quality.
I'm going to digress here. You know, you're allowed to keep cooking, but I am going to digress here because I have to tell the story. Yeah. This pasta hasn't got parmesan in, but in Italy at the moment, because parmesan is so valued, they're keeping it in vaults, and the banks are using it as collateral. That's actually the parmesan. They're using it as collateral for loans.
And as a dowry.
Oh, I didn't know that one. Well, when you get married, mate, I expect, you know, a big wheel of parmesan to the parents. All right, enough digressing.
This is a couple of minutes off now, this pasta.
Yep. All right, so we better start thinking about the rest of the gig.
So we'll get these prawns in. We'll get a little bit of this lovely olive oil in also.
Yes.
So we're going to pop some beautiful olive oil in there, and that's going to be the base of the sauce.
Oh, right.
We're going to turn that heat right down now. A little bit of garlic. We don't want to colour it too much.
No, because it gets that awful sort of burnt flavour, doesn't it?
It is, and it'll
You
become
just
bitter.
you want nutty, not burnt.
And you can see, we've just got this above the heat. We don't want it searing.
All right.
We don't want them, you know, these prawns are such high quality, so fresh, you could eat them raw. So we're just going to cook them about 3/4 of the way.
Yeah. Neil Perry does a dish at his restaurant, Rockpool Bar and Grill, where he actually does sashimi of prawns.
Yep.
And, you know, I sort of looked at it first and then thought a bit strange about it, but as they said, it has to be this amazing quality.
Yeah.
You don't do it with just any old prawn. So this is exactly what you're doing here.
They'll probably be the same prawns.
Yes.
They're just amazing. Now, it's a little bit of sea salt. This is freshly milled white pepper. Some beautiful chilli. It's quite sweet.
Yeah. That's local, isn't it?
It is. We've got a fantastic local grower who grows a lot of things for us.
All right.
Chili's one of them, and obviously it all comes on at once. And so he's dried that. That's last year's chilli.
All right.
And this is actually wild fennel from around his farm. It grows along the side of the road. It's just the seeds, and we've dried that out and milled that as well.
And whereabouts is this farm, or is it a secret?
No, it's in Wandon East. Yeah, Wandon East. It's not too far from here. And they've got a little farm gate there as well, actually.
All right. Also, when you come to the valley, you should go and see them.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Yeah. OK, so that olive oil's in there. It's all in there. Now this pasta, with a bit of luck, will be ready.
Yep. Because the timing, of course, is perfect here. I have great faith in you, Tim.
So we'll just check that.
All right, while we're waiting for the pasta to cook, it's only 2 minutes away, we're going to go to a break.
Huey's Kitchen, proudly brought to you by Chemist Warehouse. Lowest price guaranteed. In association with Swiss Vitamins. Tired? Stressed? You'll feel better on Swiss.
All right, welcome back, and let's continue. How are we going? Pasta's
online.
About ready, isn't it?
Prawns are ready to go.
Yep.
OK, so I'm just going to... Just behind me here, I'm going to lose a bit of this water.
That's what we do. You know, you rush outside in kitchens, don't you?
There is this...
Pour it on the garden.
Luckily there's no lawn there. I've made that mistake before.
They get a bit upset there. So a little bit of the pasta water, which is traditional in Italy.
That's right. The Italians call it montegato, where it's the emulsification of, well, it can be a number of things, but in this case it's just going to be of the cooking juices or the water, and
which has
the
the
olive
starch
oil.
in it and quite a bit of the flavour.
Yeah, for sure. And we're just about there. Lots of fresh parsley. Some of this beautiful basil.
That is superb, that basil.
Picked moments ago, as we do.
Well, that's what's so lovely about the idea of the kitchen garden.
Yeah.
I remember years ago, and I'm not bringing this back to me, I really am not, but I remember years ago going to a restaurant of Robert Carrier's called Hiltersham Hall, which was outside London, and you ordered a salad and you watched the staff come out and pick those leaves right there in front of you for your salad.
That's what it should be.
Fantastic. Yeah, well, life's not
Beautiful.
quite like that, but it's a lovely idea, isn't it?
We actually do a bit of that ourselves.
Yep.
Not
in the middle of the night when you run out.
On a busy service.
That looks fantastic, yeah.
So now we're just going to freshen that up a little bit with a little bit of olive oil.
Yep.
Same olive oil, but it's going to have a different characteristic to that olive oil.
Now, what do you think the zucchini flowers add to this dish, just out of interest?
Mainly colour. It's very subtle flavour. It's a beautiful, subtle zucchini. I think it goes perfectly well with seafood.
Right. Yeah.
It's just...
Because I think at home people don't use them a lot, except sometimes they may stuff them with goat's cheese and things like that, which is also absolutely delightful. But
just a nice addition because the garden's full of them at the moment.
Yeah.
We're tending to throw them in
everything,
in just about everything.
Desserts.
Well, I have heard of it, but
yeah, not quite.
Okay, so here we go.
Tim, that's what good Italian cooking's about: simplicity, flavour, and the best of ingredients.
That's right. I agree.
Good on you, mate.
Pleasure.
Great place to come. When you come to the Yarra Valley, please come to De Bortley. What's the name of the restaurant again?
Locale at De Bortley.
I knew that. and visit Tim because he's a bloody good chef. This is Churchill Island, and it's the heritage farm there, and it's got a lot of history to do with Victoria because in 1801, Lieutenant James Grant arrived here, and he named it Churchill after the man who had given him, in England, the first seeds that were then planted and became Victoria's first European crop. It also was where Lieutenant Grant built the first European house in Victoria. And in 1872, I think it is, I'm not absolutely certain about it, but I think it's 1872, the Mayor of Melbourne, James Amis, bought the island as a farm and an island retreat. I think mayors must have got paid a lot more money in those days. Anyway, it's a nice part of the world, and it really is, and can get a little windy. But this heritage farm's a lot of fun. It's worth coming to visit. If you're in this area, please come and visit the heritage farm because it gives you a little bit of idea of the history of this area, and also you see the house that was built to be lived in as an island retreat by the Mayor of Melbourne. As I said, they must have got paid a lot more than they do now. Maybe he was a property owner or something, you know, maybe he had a lot of money. Now, seems logical, because we're talking about English history there, that we sort of do a dish, I suppose you would say, that has an English background, because I believe you could call it a full English breakfast and then add frittata to it. So, a full English breakfast frittata, we'll call it. And what we've got here is a few things that, you know, you have to have in a frittata. We've got some nice local sausages, some Desiree nice waxy potatoes, which I've just blanched. I've blanched those sausages too. Some mushrooms, some bacon. I'm going to add some eggs to it. You know, so you get all the things in one pan. So we just heat a little bit of oil in a pan and then throw in... You didn't see that, did you? Throw in a few bits and pieces. I have to stop saying that because I say that all the time. And I reckon half the time you don't notice when I throw something over the side. But anyway, so I'll just keep quiet in future. I won't even mention it. And some seasoning. Now I'll just turn this down a bit because it's starting to develop a bit of colour. Now that's fine, but we are, as I said, making a frittata type thing, so therefore we don't want to be sticking on the bottom, do we? So some salt, not too much because you've got bacon and sausages, and often you find they've got quite a bit of salt in them. And let's just scrape up any of those bits But certainly we've got some nice colour into these bits and pieces. And then all I'm doing is whisking that up, making sure that I combine the sour cream really well. You put normal cream in if you like. I don't mind, but not too much. If you're putting normal cream in, put just a really generous slurp. Not as much as I put the sour cream in. The sour cream will add some nice flavour to this. But do whisk it fairly well. And then we pour it in there. Just like that. Mix it in well. Mainly so that they're all part of that dish. There we go. And then we put a lid on and we cook that really, really slowly. So I'll turn it right down until it's set. Now it should be a little wobbly in the centre, you know, you're not trying to make a cake here. You can also, if you just happen to have an oven, which as you can see I don't, you can throw it into the oven if you like, rather than doing it on the cooktop. It'll take 15 to 20 minutes because I'm going to cook it very slowly, and then you serve it, I reckon, with some good tomato sauce either on the side or sprinkled over the top, whichever you like. All right, and that's about it. That's my full English breakfast frittata at Churchill Island's Heritage Farm. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Imagine all the farm workers coming in here and having that for breakfast. They'd be pretty excited, wouldn't they? As long as I do it properly. Now this is derived from a Nepalese recipe. Now that's what you say for people from Nepal. I hope it is. Anyway, they would normally make it as a dumpling, not as a fried pastry. I'm making it as a fried pastry today because I tried it out and I absolutely loved it. And it's just pretty simple, nice pork dumpling or pork pastry. Start off with 250 grams of minced pork and then about a cup of wongabok, finely chopped, and half a cup of spring onions, finely chopped, and some freshly grated ginger, not too much. Good heaped teaspoon, I suppose. That'll do us. All right, 1 tablespoon of soy, 1 tablespoon of rice wine vinegar, some salt and pepper. Now be a little careful, Ian. Today I've had fun with the salt. I keep on saying just a little, never put about 3 tons in. So I'm behaving myself now. And some pepper and about a teaspoon of sesame oil. Always be careful with your sesame oil. I know I harp on about that, but it just can really take over a dish. And then we mix that up well. This is the most important part of the process because you have to get that pork incorporated with all the other goodies. And if you don't, well, you sort of have a lump of pork in the middle of it. All right, that's good. That's well incorporated. Now, the next step, the pastries themselves. Just use some of this terrific puff pastry, and we'll just take a sheet. And using a pastry cutter, do some circles. Now don't waste the leftovers, always keep those, you can use them. I'm not going to roll them out now, but you could do it straight away and use them to make some extra ones. Now, we'll make a little bit of egg wash, that's just to keep them together, because that's important, and all we do with that is just an egg and some milk. You can just use an egg yolk, some people do that. I've always liked the egg and milk mixture, I have to be honest. If you're baking these, and you certainly could instead of frying them, what you would do is then brush the outside with egg wash, but seeing as we're frying these, you don't need to, because it's completely superfluous. It would be absolutely no point whatsoever. Then, just grab a teaspoon and put a dollop in the centre. Don't put too much. It's always tempting to put extra. You think, oh, that'll be better, it'll taste more of the filling and everything like that, but what then happens is, of course, it just comes apart because you've got too much filling, and as it swells up, you're in terrible trouble. So don't do it. So even here, I reckon I'm a bit generous with the filling. See, what happens, and what I worry about, is that it splits and your seal comes apart because you're getting the pressure from the stuffing, which it expands as it cooks. All right, now, this is important. You can quilt it if you want to, and when I say quilt it, do it like, you know, you do those Chinese dumplings. Or you can just do this. All right, just always press down firmly on the edges just to make sure. See, that'll come apart a bit. And then into a deep fryer. Now, please don't overcrowd the deep fryer. I've got one of these terrific bench deep fryers. If you haven't got one of these, you can always do it in a wok or even in a deep pot. About 180 degrees. And just give it a shake so that it doesn't stick on the bottom. And keep your fingers crossed that they don't all come apart. But we're just going to make a nice little sauce to go with it, a dipping sauce. First of all, just some matchsticks of ginger. That's if it's nice and fresh, and some thin slices of seeded chilli. And with that, we then just add some of this Asian red vinegar. And I'll tell you what I will add to that, just because it's a bit sort of syrupy. All right, I'm looking forward to these. I think they'd be very tasty. And just as a hint, deep frying puff pastry really just lightens and puffs it up. So as you can see how light those pastries are. And I suppose everyone at home is saying to themselves, well, oh, deep frying. But as long as you get rid of all the oil, and as I said, it actually makes it lighter than even when you do it in the oven. So, good hint, it's worth trying. But remember, moderation. Not at every meal. If you'd like any recipes from today's show, just call 1902